is Lynetta McIver, Multicultural Outreach Director, AARP, Louisiana. On behalf of our team and volunteers, welcome to the presentation of the historical significance of New Orleans Black Mardi Gras. Before we start the presentation, I'd like to take a few minutes to tell you something about AARP. AARP is the world's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan membership organization with a nationwide network of staff, volunteers, and partners helping more than 100 million Americans 50 and over achieve health security, financial empowerment, and personal fulfillment. In Louisiana, we proudly serve approximately 430,000 members with a state office located in Baton Rouge and a satellite office, the Community Resource Center, located here in New Orleans. Throughout the year, we've shared information, resources, fun conversation, and entertainment to give you a deeper experience with us. This presentation is designed to showcase New Orleans as a livable community through the lens of culture and social interaction. In New Orleans, we march to the beat of a different drum, especially during Carnival season, and more soulfully through the Black Mardi Gras experience, where history, culture, and music collides to bring entertainment and colorful festivities to our neighborhoods. Tonight, we will show you how and why Black Mardi Gras is celebrated emphatically with pride in our community. We thank the Black Mardi Gras crews, culture bearers, walking and dance club, and our costume designers for bringing a glimpse of Black Mardi Gras into your homes. And we thank you for joining this special presentation. Now join me in welcoming our host, Monica Pierre.
The Black Mardi Gras experience is something special. It is a celebration of community and culture. We love the Mardi Gras cruise, and we love walking or dancing alongside the baby dolls, Mardi Gras Indians, our Skull and Bones gang. And when it comes to the Mardi Gras balls, we are amazed with their pageantry and pomp and circumstance. We are going to bring this celebration directly to your home because it's a celebration of community and culture. We're joined by Elton Osborne, a New Orleans culture bearer and brother of the late documentarian and filmmaker Royce Osborne. And we're going to talk to you about the significance and what it means to have the Black Mardi Gras experience. What's the historical context of what we're talking about?
Well, my family, I'm one of 6 siblings. We grew up in the 7th Ward in Claiborne Avenue and La Harpe Street. The memories of Mardi Gras, waking up with us, all 6 of us kids dressed in costume, going down Claiborne Avenue. It was full of oak trees. It was beautiful, and it was all black people, just celebrating, all dressed in costume. All it's that magical day.
Do people think of Mardi Gras and the Black Mardi Gras experience, or they think of it as something separate?
Well, you say Mardi Gras outside of New Orleans, and I think what is thought of is Bourbon Street and, show you, and drunken fat boys and things like that. But I know that the reality is my Mardi Gras is something that I'd like to keep real and important enough to keep on going, and we got to keep this culture alive.
Do most people, even locally, remember that the reason behind a lot of these organizations and also walking groups really stemmed from something significant? Can you speak to that?
I'm making 60 this Friday, so I do think that it's a generational thing, of course. Being of this, a native of this city, I left when I was 8 years old. So in 1970, we left, moved to California as the Great Migration happened. Claiborne Avenue was demolished, and we decided to pack up and move. Though we kept really strong ties with the city. We were always coming home for one thing or another. Sadly, funerals or even Mardi Gras or hot summers. My parents would bring us 6 kids. Our roots were important, so we kept in touch with the city. So coming back, was just always very important to us. When we had a chance, my brother and I had a chance to come down and just decided, 1997, my dad had passed away. Our roots were still really rich here. Just decided it's time to buy a house and come back home, and there we were.
Talk about your late brother. I mean, I can see and feel how much love and adoration you have for him. Why was it important for him to put together the film?
Well, because the story hadn't been told. There had been Always for Pleasure was a great film, but there really wasn't a black person telling the story. My brother had gone to film school, the American Film Institute. He worked in radio. He was a writer for the NAACP Image Awards for a lot of years, and had a chance to come back home and really found the cultural significance. And being such a small town and being of this town, this city will welcome you with its open arms as a native, and you will find people willing to talk and want to tell that story, and knowing that the culture must be told on, the story must go on. So we found ourselves, or he particularly found himself, with these luminaries. I mean, Big Chief Tootie Montana was the chief of chiefs, Al Morrison, the chief of all skeletons, people that were up in age that really knew that the story needed to be told, and really felt confident that my brother was the storyteller to tell it.
You mentioned the skeletons. For those who may not be familiar with that skeleton gang, what is it all about?
Well, the Skull and Bone gang simply tells the significance of putting the fear in you that that life is short, that we all wind up in the grave sometime, and it's a warning to kids. Our thing had been something that we discovered. I'll talk with Al, and you'll see in this film, was that by getting up early in the morning and putting the fear of skull and bones. You don't want to end up like me. Do right. Stay in school. Don't do dope. Don't smoke. And these are things that we wake up at the crack of dawn, Mardi Gras morning, and in our full regalia, banging on trash cans, waking people up, and reminding them, you could be next.
You could be next. What do you think that a lot of people don't understand about the skeletons? Because it seems kind of scary.
Well, I mean, it should be. It rightfully should be scary. It again is about mortality. That to live your life and also enjoy your life. You have one shot at it, and you never know how soon you're out of it.
I introduced you as a culture bearer. What does that mean to you? And what is your work or your mission at this point? I've been a clothing designer for years. I am now on a bakery. We just produced our King Cake Festival, and I had some of just the greatest talent of New Orleans jazz musicians performing. I had Deacon John and Cyril Neville and John Butte and Wendell Brunius and Herlin Riley, all these cats that are real working professional musicians that understand the importance of, again, the culture must go on. So for us to be able to partner with the New Orleans Musicians Clinic. We do a Making Groceries, it's a food donation. And every week we donate loaves of bread to this organization that then gives food baskets to culture elders and significant persons that need assistance. I say significant, but I mean, we're all significant. What I do mean is that there's a contribution that we all need to make. And so we're proudly partnering with them. Again, this was just on Sunday, and we sold nearly 2,000 king cakes, which allow us to make contributions to this organization and keep this going. What's your message to younger generations or the generations coming behind to keep the story and keep the culture going?
Well, it's not a spectator sport. That's one thing that I found on Mardi Gras, that with us kids growing up, we were always in costume, and I haven't seen it when you go to Claiborne Avenue now. You see kids are just not masked, and so much of the fun is being masked, and it's a give and take. Yes, you can go to I can go to a parade, a skeleton just dressed in a costume, and the Zulu rider with a coconut would see that and appreciate that, and you're the first one to get a go. You want a coconut? You want to win the Mardi Gras? Do that. You want to go to the music? You want to get a shoe? Dress in a costume. Be a part of it. Celebrate it. This is carnival time.
Anything else you'd like to say about where we are in 2022 when it comes to the Black Mardi Gras experience?
Well, there is hope. I believe getting past this pandemic. I believe that there are organizations. There are other culture bearers that are here. There's Diane Honoré, the Sunpie Barnes, who's continued the Skull and Bones tradition. There are groups to join. There are organizations to keep up with, and I think it's important we keep this going.
Well, you heard it from Elton Osborne. It's important to keep it going. It's not a spectator sport. The Mardi Gras Indian culture is an integral part of the Black New Orleans experience, and we are honored and delighted to have joining us now Cherice Harrison Nelson, the Queen of the Guardians of the Flame Maroon Society and co-founder of the Mardi Gras Indian Hall of Fame. Thank you for talking to us about the Mardi Gras Indians. When people ask you, what's the Mardi Gras Indians? What do you normally respond? What's the answer?
My father said that this tradition is an homage to the mutual struggle of people who were here and Africans who were brought here to experience freedom of movement, freedom of ways of life, culinary, spiritual practices, and most importantly, freedom over their bodies, freedom of movement. This is what this is about. It's a freedom expression. How do we experience freedom in America when everything about America is trying to strip us of our humanity and our freedom? But this country is built on what? Freedom.
Tell us more about the Queen of the Guardians and the Flame Maroon. What does that mean? How does one ascend to that title?
Well, in the beginning, my son was a member of the group. My father dressed for 20 years and then he took a 20-year break to raise his family. He said it's not a halfway house. Either you're in or you're out. And the two things you have to be willing to spend are your money and your time. And he said he needed to spend his time and money on his family. So he reorganized again, well, not reorganized, he started a new group, Guardians of the Flame. And the name comes from my brother, Donald Harrison Jr.'s one of his records, recordings. And it means to guard the flame and pass it on. That's why we always have children in our group. But at first, my son started dressing, and I really am a very spiritual person. So I always feel like this tradition called me. As I was sewing on the suit, and you sew in the still of the night, truly, it whispered to me, and I didn't pay attention to it. And the next year I always tell people, it does like, Cherice! And so I decided I wanted to be a part of the group. I wasn't invited, so I, daddy's girl, I could get what I want out my daddy, but daddy. So I had to decide if I would go and play that role, or he really respected being self-assertive, or I would be daddy. And so, daddy. I went in and said, daddy, I would like to be a part of the group. And he immediately said, no good. You're a teacher. This is not for you. And his second chief was in the den, and so I said, Joe, can I be your queen? And just like that, he said yes, and I became the second queen of the Guardians of the Flame.
Excellent, excellent. So tell us how it's organized and the different titles and things that happen with the particular Mardi Gras Indians.
Well, each group has a big chief, and that's the leader. It's a man, and he leads the group. He's the public face of the group. And then he may have a queen or not. The first person you usually see is a spy boy, and the spy boy does just that. He goes out and he looks for other groups for you to meet ritually. And then you may have customarily the flag boy. The flag boy usually carries a flag with the name of the group, but some carry sticks, staffs, and you do what you want. This is a tradition where you can be self-actualized. Then you may have the wild man. The wild man doesn't have a fixed position. He can move throughout the group, pass messages, just like a chief scout. The chief scout is usually, everybody can do what they want, so I'm not speaking. As a younger, maybe a teenager that also can run messages, because there's a series of covert and overt messages that go back to the chief. If you're going to meet somebody, which direction you're going to go, telling them a group is coming, the flag will, I don't know the signals because I'm a woman, but they would do something to let them know a group is coming. And then you have the queens. If you have a second chief, a third chief, trail chief is behind the big chief. But ultimately, every position is leading up to the big chief. And so when you meet another group, you meet your position. So I wouldn't meet the spy boy, I would meet the queen. And so when you meet, you kind of brag on yourself. Oh, I'm that pretty queen, Guardians of the Flame. I come from way downtown. I got these little bitty girls with me, and they're training to be queens too. And somebody else may tell me something, and we kind of dance. If they're younger, they dance a lot. But if you're older like me, I just dance a little bit. And then the chiefs meet, and they greet each other. They may sing, and at the end of it, you show love to the other person that you're meeting. So the queens may hug, the chiefs will, hug, and usually they will whisper into the other person's ear, "You're pretty. You're pretty, pretty."
What's the day like? How long? How early do you get up, especially on Mardi Gras Day, on Fat Tuesday? What's that day like?
Well, it can vary. Some days I get to go to sleep, and there have been years when I did not sleep because I wasn't ready. And my mother is very, very old school. We don't glue anything. So everything has to be hand stitched. And so really it's like a couple of days before you start, the energy is in the house, the children are there, just putting the finishing touches, hopefully, on your suit. My father used to say, a suit is never ready. You put it on because it's time to go, and you walk out the door. So I have walked out the door many of carnival mornings. But so you have that synergy leading up to it. And of course I come from a very musical and creative family. So we may put my son's film on, listen to my brother's CD, or my nephew's music. And my brother did a CD, Indian Red, so my daddy's singing 2 songs. And one of them is so inspiring to me, so I always listen to that. I start my day with that. That's like my prayer in the morning. And finger foods mostly. I have time to eat no red beans. So normally I'm eating, now that I'm trying to lose weight, I eat whole grain pita bread, tuna sandwiches or something like that. But if the kids will have hot dogs. They have their, we have a special hot dog we make for the kids. So the children don't have hot dogs, hamburgers, but it's always usually finger food, nothing you need a fork to eat.
I've heard you say that you don't mask.
No, I do not.
Explain that.
Well, I tell people that I am naked when I walk out the door because, for example, my 2016 suit was in homage to my great-great-grandfather, Madison. Madison was stolen in 1820 at the age of 11 and brought here by a congressman from Virginia. And if I reveal my story as Madison's granddaughter, I am not masking. I'm giving you the essence of who I am. I am naked. I have taken my truth and I am now sharing it with you in the most pure way that I can.
What do you see as the future of the Mardi Gras Indians? I mean, because again, it's been a very long time in your family, 5 generations. So what do you see going forward?
Well, I think this is something, I don't know who said it first, but it calls you. It picks you. And if it picks you, it's like a jealous lover, not letting you go anywhere. And I am devoted to being Queen Reese, but it's not just on Carnival Day. It's a lifestyle for me. Everything filters through this. I have written books, I have produced films, I have produced plays and co-written plays. I have, everything I do is it filters through that. And because I'm a queen, people will often come along for the ride. So it's a wonderful thing for me. I am not the leader of the group, but I am the queen of the group. And we call ourselves a Maroon Society because Maroons are people who self-emancipated themselves. The common narrative is, I don't use the word slaves because no one is born a slave. We are born human beings, and some people decide to do inhumane things and strip us of our humanity. But we're all born human beings, babies.
The Mardi Gras Hall of Fame.
Okay.
How did that come about?
Well, my father became an ancestor on December 1st of 1998. And I wanted to take a break, take a couple of weeks off. And the principal of the school, Rosalind Smith at the time, said, no, come to work, you need to be around the children and they're gonna miss you. So I went to work and I was really upset one day, crying in the hall, and she said, we can do something to honor your father. And it was her idea actually to start the Mardi Gras Indian Hall of Fame. But it was a wonderful thing. The children sat on red butcher board paper, but it was bulletin board paper. And they sat on the perimeters of the paper, and the Indians would walk down the center. And it became really sacred. The Indians like, you can't walk on it if you're not an Indian. And it was symbolized them as the royalty and the community heroes that they are.
The pure majesty and the look when we think about Mardi Gras Indians, and you refer to them as suits. Why are they called suits as opposed to perhaps costumes?
Well, a costume, you're pretending to be some fantasy, mythical character, but this is really us. So we wear a suit. The headdresses are called crowns because we're royal. We are royalty in our communities. So it's very important to use the language, and even just legally, you can't copyright a costume. But what we wear is original art, and that is copyrightable.
And wearing the suit or the headdress, what does that do internally for someone?
Most people will tell you it changes them. You have a metamorphosis. I can see it in the children. We gather and the drums are playing and you come out one at a time and they're waiting. And once they open that door and they say, I'm the little queen, it just, you really feel free. You feel almost euphoric because it is you being you in that space, in that time, in that moment when you walk through that door. Queen Reese, Guardians of the Flame.
Thank you, Queen Reese. And we will continue to talk about the celebration of culture and community, and I will take a look at the costumes and what it's all about. The Skull and Bone Gang has been waking up the living in the Tremere area for more than 200 years. We sit down with Big Chief Sunpie to learn more about the tradition and the history. So Chief, what is the history of the Skull and Bone Gang? Because I understand it dates back to the 1800s.
It does, Monica. The Northside Skull and Bone Gang has its early origins. It's been passed along to me from chief to chief. My big chief, Al Morris, passed on the same messages he got from his big chief, Big Arthur Regis, that the Northside Skull and Bone Gang started in the what was becoming the newly formed neighborhood called the Tremere area town, which is in the 6th Ward, of course, and it was started by a African that came into town on a ship that either was a merchant marine or was working in some kind of mariner's capacity, and he started masking as a skeleton in 1819. So that's the kind of oral history that we've had passed along throughout the years, and there's various different things, but we hold that message dear, and we try and honor that when we come out on Mardi Gras morning.
So back then, what was the message?
Well, the message was the same as it is now, and that is for people to recognize what their existence is, to respect their own mortality, to be thankful for being here in this life form that we're in right now, and to honor their ancestors, those that made them, the ones that went on before them. And those are the messages. We basically denounce violence of any kind, violence against children, against women, gunplay, drugs, all those things that will expedite your ultimate demise, because life is precious, and we believe that you should respect it. So when we come out on Mardi Gras morning, we drum, sing, and we bring those messages, as well as we bring the pageantry of what Carnival and Mardi Gras is all about for us as African descended people.
You mentioned that the chief passes it down, it was passed down to you, but what was a park ranger doing that you became interested in all of this?
Well, I was minding my own business. To tell you the truth, I was working over in a newly formed national park called New Orleans Jazz National Park, and I'd worked out in the Barataria Preserve for many years, and I decided I was coming into the city. I said, I'm leaving the gators out in the woods, and I'm coming downtown with the sharks. So I moved into the city, and I was, you know, I was really interested in connecting the national park that I was working with, New Orleans Jazz, with the culture of the people who created it. So, you know, I did a lot of hang time with people like Albert Morris, like Sylvester Francis. He was just about to start the Backstreet Cultural Museum. He just rode up to me on a bicycle one day when I was just getting off work, and he said, "Hey man, where you going?" And you know, I was in my uniform, you know, green and gray, and he said, "Have you ever thought about masking skeleton?" I said, "What?" And he said, "Masking skeleton." He said, "You know I'm the chief." I said, "Yeah, I know." I said, "No, man, I've never thought about that." He said, "Well, you want to do it?" I said, "Well, I'll think about it, you know." So told him that, and he wrote, "I was a masked skeleton. Why would I do that?" But then he came back around about a month and a half later. He said, "Man, you didn't tell me anything." And so he said, "What are you going to do?" And so I thought for a minute. I said, "All right, I'll try it, you know." So that's how I began. I was in 1999. I didn't really know that much about it, other than, you know, what I'd heard and seen. I would see him, you know, doing some different things. So that's how I dove off into it. And, you know, of course, as they say, it was just like getting bitten by Dracula. That was it. I was done.
So prior to being bitten by Dracula and being into it, what had you seen and heard?
Well, you know, I'd heard things from him. We used to hang on that porch over there by the old Blandon Funeral Home. That was just like a spot where people would hang out, especially on Friday and things like that. So I'd go over there, and, you know, to me, I decided I wanted to get a formal education around New Orleans culture from the people who lived in it and who were doing it, as opposed to getting the kind of formal education that you get sometimes in university systems. They're both good, but, you know, New Orleans is the place where it's always going down, it's happening. So to understand that we live in, you know, a living museum, and that's the thread of life, was the thing for me. So, you know, he would talk about masking what he had done in many years ago, and people would talk about, you know, the fear that, you know, folks had of skeletons on Mardi Gras, more skeletons as people call them, you know, and on the carnival morning and things like that. But I had lots of friends also that masked Indian, like my good friend Donald Harrison Sr., you know, and he had always tried to get me to mask, and he was trying to get me to sew, and I was too hard-headed, and or whatever it was. I thought I was too busy because I was a musician, you know, working musician, and Carnival is a time when things really ramp up for music. So,
So what do you bring from your music as a musician, as an artist, into your role as the big chief of the Skull and Bones gang?
well, some of the things I've done, you know, and haven't fallen into that position by default. You know, when I first started coming out with him, he would, it was just he and I. So, you know, so I was automatically the second chief, gang of two, making much noise and doing what needed to be done for Mardi Gras Day. And but, you know, as the gang grew, and I wanted to make sure that we had a voice in our own messages. So I had, you know, quite a few songs come to me in dreams, like a song that we sing, which is like our prayer song. We are the Northside, oh Skull and Bone Gang. We come to remind you before you die. You better get your life together. Next time you see us, it's too late to cry. Ashes to ashes and dust to dust. You better straighten up before you come see us. You better get your life together. Next time you see us, it's too late to cry. Wow. You know, so that song and many other songs like Too Late, which is a song that came to me in, you know, in a definite dreamscape before a sort of tragic accident happened here in New Orleans. Too late, your mama can't help you. Mom Rand can't help you, none can't help you.
Nobody can help you.
You run out the door like Shotgun Joe, run to the corner, sing and do what you want. You might wake up in the morning and read the news and they got Marlon DeFillo singing your blues. Could wake up one morning and find your own self dead, and next thing you know, they're chunking dirt on your head and it's too late. Your mama can't help you, you know. When people are truly in trouble, the first and last thing they do is they call for their mother, you know.
It's Mardi Gras morning. The sun hasn't risen. What does the Skull and Bone Gang do? How do you make your presence known on Mardi Gras Day?
Well, yeah, we're up early for sure, and we get our regalia together. We put an altar together, but even before doing that, I start preparing myself. A week out, I'm going to cemeteries and saying for ancestral spirits, invite them to come with us, really, because that's what it's all about. It's recognizing that we're not here of ourselves and we didn't create ourselves. Our existence came from divine position down to this ground that we are on right here, and to honor the ancestors, in the African tradition is where it's at, recognizing that, we're walking on the shoulders of giants no matter how we think of it and who held us up in the ways that we are. And, sometimes the reason we act the way we do, these are lineages that have come down the line, so it's best to pay attention to that. And coming out on Carnival Day, Mardi Gras Day, we are representing kind of the literal meaning carnival, the shedding of the flesh, so that people can see us. Some people see us and they scream and run toward us. Others see us and they scream and run the other direction. So it's kind of like a mirror being thrown up in front of you. How you feel about that is, the reaction. It's usually a very quick, immediate reaction. There's no real prep for like what people see when they see us coming down the street. Yeah. Do
you primarily do this in the Treme area, or is it all over the city? Is there a general route?
We have no set route, but we do start in the Treme. We're going to come out of the Little People's Place bar this year. We came out of Backstreet Cultural Museum many years, but it is no more in that context. So we're coming out of Little People's Place at 1226 Barrack Street, and we will be on the ground and moving at 5:30 in the morning. There's usually a very large, gathering of people that come out to see us come out. And we bring blessings and we bring the spirit of Carnival.
Do you knock on doors, or is it just with your voice?
Oh, we knock on doors, we sing. I've done it all. It depends on what. I don't plan it. I prep myself. In the gang, we sing. We say our prayers. We ask for safety for everybody, for ourselves. And when we hit the ground, we're in the spirit world, really. We don't have a set route.
Do you enter homes, or is it only you enter the home? Yes. Depending on
what's going on and what moves me. Half of it I don't really remember it, unless I see it, like on online or something like that, or in a photograph. But that's the tradition. We bring no harm. We bring peace and love.
Yeah. And a message.
And a wake-up call for people. And it's not, it's not something that I sit down and prep and think about it. No, it happens in the moment. So,
what do you wear? Talk about the suits. Talk about the stilts, the bones, the skull, what you have on your head.
Oh yeah, well, Northside Skull and Bone Gang, we're doing something that this is the old school stuff. We use flour and water. Baling wire, like you used to bale hay with, or cotton was the main thing here, but these were just things made out of necessity. So taking and making a wire head, we use a formula that dates right back to the beginning of when this stuff started, and we create this with paint, water, flour, some sweats, long johns, and we are the poor man's game. Because it does not, and it never costs really that much to have a great time on Carnival. Even though, people do everything they do, and Mardi Gras Day is for everybody. You can be anything you want to be other than your natural self. And that's what masking is all about. But, it's not necessarily for us like what we spent to make a suit is what we put in it. You know, the spirit that we put in it, which is to animate that. That's the thing that has been the tradition. So that's a specific thing also, you know, and you know, those are like things that we hold dear to, and you know, taking things like that, and you know, that's just flour and water and some house paint, but the antlers on top are weigh close to 40 pounds. So.
And then the bone, of course.
That bone weighs almost 40 pounds also. Yes, that's a heavy.
Yeah. And sometimes I see you all on stilts.
Yes,
What's the
Second
significance?
Chief Zohar Israel. Yeah, we're representing our African heritage, you know, so we know who we are, we know where we came from, and so that's what we honor, you know. And that's what this tradition, that's the beauty of it, is it came from people who were enslaved. They had one day off, really. One true day off where they were not, you know, bound to certain things. But even, you know, at the end of those days, you know, Carnival, when it was over, that was also a sad affair for people who were part of bondage. When you chain back down to the floor with a collar around your neck, arm shackles, feet, hands, leg, yeah. That's, and we understand that and we know it because that's our people that.
Well, thank you for being with us.
Yeah, thank you. Right.
They are the New Orleans baby dolls, Mardi Gras maskers with a rich history and a colorful history. And it's captured on film as well. We're joined now by filmmaker Vashni Kordin, who has produced a documentary, an artistic documentary on the baby dolls entitled You Can't Stop Spirit. Vashni, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Ms. Pierre. Always a pleasure.
Oh, goodness. The baby dolls. People are just so excited about them. And before we get into the film, did you know anything about the rich history and the boldness of the baby dolls prior to working on the film? What did you know?
Absolutely. I didn't know much about the baby dolls. I was introduced to the baby dolls in a documentary filmmaking class my senior year, and through Dr. Kim Voss DeVille and Dr. Tia Smith, who mentored me and who I studied under. And the class went on for about a semester. Everyone graduated, went on to their prospective careers, and I chose to stay behind and continue documenting the baby dolls. I was just so inspired by them, and really just moved by their story and what they embodied.
We're going to talk about their story. What's the origin of the baby dolls? Because a lot of people don't realize that they were a part of a moment in history as well. So what do we know about the baby dolls?
Oh, they were definitely a part of a moment in history. They emerged during the Jim Crow era in the early 19th century. And this was a time where Black people weren't able to participate in Mardi Gras. So they broke away and created their own thing. There are multiple origin stories. Some people say that the baby dolls began from a family tradition. And then there's another story that mentions baby dolls coming from the red light district from Storyville, a popular Black entertainment district, and were sex workers.
Mm. So regardless of the exact origin, they did some bold things. When they claimed Mardi Gras for themselves, that was maybe even an act of subversion, because that you did not do that in the 19 teens or the 1920s New Orleans.
Oh, definitely not. And from what I learned from Dr. Voss was that, you know, during this time, this was a time where women weren't really, you know, women were quite domestic. They weren't able to express themselves sexually or verbally, really, you know. They weren't able to wear short dresses or skirts. So this was a moment on Mardi Gras Day where the social order was inverted and they were able to express parts of themselves that they weren't able to in their day-to-day life. And that's what made it so revolutionary and so powerful for women.
So you're deciding to do this film on the baby dolls. What was that process like? Because there are several organizations, you know, there's not just one baby doll. So what did you want to capture in the film?
Yes, I wanted to capture women in power. There are many overarching messages in You Can't Stop Spirit. There's so much historical significance in baby dolling and Black Mardi Gras tradition. But the reason why I was so drawn to them is because through masking, through putting on the regalia, putting on their baby doll attire, they transformed into the person that they always wanted to be. They transformed into their most authentic self. And I think as an artist and as a filmmaker, we're all on life journeys, and I had been searching for that within me as a Black woman. So, you know, observing them, watching them mask as baby dolls, it influenced how I began to see myself, and it allowed me to get closer to my own power. And I hoped that in making this film that I could show this to the masses, and other women could then to feel inspired to get in touch with that part of themselves.
Who are some of the women, the baby dolls that you feature in the film?
There's many women featured. Some of our main protagonists are Shannon Paxton of the Wild Chapatulas Baby Dolls, Cinnamon Black of the $1 Million Baby Dolls, and Kadrell Baptiste, and she is a part of the Renegade Rebel Baby Dolls.
There's such a boldness. I don't know, that's probably not the best word, but it's in your face, but the clarity of who they are comes very clearly. So how are you able to get them to be that part of themselves? Because sometimes organizations can be very protective of who they are. So what were some of the challenges, or even some of the things that you were able to dispel within their own minds, that this was going to be a film that celebrated who they are?
No, 100%. This was a very long journey for me. I had filmed them after college for about a year or so, and then wound up moving to Los Angeles to further my career in filmmaking. Then came back to New Orleans, and just because I couldn't get my mind off of the baby dolls, I was so inspired by them, and it had to be maybe a year or two of filming, and really them getting to know me as me getting to know them, and I've spent, there were times where I wouldn't come with a full camera crew, where I would just bring my camera and me, and we would just be having regular conversations, not even interview style. And a lot of that feeling that comes through in the film it comes from me not necessarily interviewing them, but conversing with them about life, about different things. And that's, I wanted people to watch this film. I wanted Black women to see this film and see themselves and relate to these women, not just from a historical standpoint, but from a personal point of view. So that's where that method came through for me.
Did you note that they, for lack of a better word, were regular women? But when they would put on their baby doll mask and kind of paint and everything, they would be transformed. So tell us about the women who are in these various baby doll organizations.
Yes. Oh man. They are all so different. There are baby dolls that come out with the Mardi Gras Indians. Baby dolls and Mardi Gras Indians represent certain neighborhoods and wards within the city of New Orleans, and they all practice masking differently under the umbrella of celebrating their womanhood and who they are.
So they could be your aunt, your mom.
Oh, 100%. Yes, when I talk to some of these baby dolls, they remind me of my godmother or my mother or my grandmother, and I wanted my audience to relate to them in that way.
You do feature, various different organizations. What do you think is the central message, or the message that the baby dolls in general would want the world to know about them and about their place in history and their place today?
Wow. I mean, I definitely don't want to speak for them, but I can speak for how, the message that hit me through creating this film, and the message that I hope to translate to other women and people, is that when you're able to transform, when you're able to be your most authentic self, right? They're putting on this regalia, they're putting on this attire, and they're able to access parts of them that they may not be able to access in their day-to-day lives, right? So we're all on a journey, we're all on a life journey as people, and I truly believe that that these women are special because they've been able to access their power through the transformation of masking.
There were times when you had your camera, sometimes you had a full camera crew. But for those who've never experienced the baby dolls, particularly on Fat Tuesday, what's that experience like, and how early do they start, and what happens?
Yes, so the baby dolls start really early in the morning. Some maybe 3 o'clock in the morning. They're putting on makeup, getting their makeup done, fixing the last little bits of their attire. They have gloves and bonnets and garters, and it's really an exciting process. I know Shannon Paxton from the Wild Chapatoulas baby dolls, she gets so excited and almost anxious when she's about to mask on Mardi Gras Day, because it's like performing. It's like you get to be Beyonce for a day. You're on the street, people are greeting you, they're showing love, you're showing love to them, and you become hyper visible on that day. And it's really a special moment for these women. But they come out right after the Bones and Skeleton gang. The Bones and Skeleton come out at 5 o'clock in the morning, and the baby dolls come out as the sun is rising.
And what is their purpose? To wake people up or get them excited? What do you think is that purpose at that point?
I really think at this point, there's so much that happens in our lives. There's so much that goes on in Black history, and this is a moment where the baby dolls can bring joy to their people and to the community, and that is essential and very important for our lives and for our spirits. Like, we need to remember that we have permission to celebrate ourselves. We have permission to experience joy and happiness and glory. And there are definitely moments where the media can overshadow that memory or that aspect of us.
One of the things that I pointed out was one of the baby dolls said that she just gets so moved and touched when little girls want to take pictures with them, or they see themselves reflected, whether it's the skin color or the hue. Did you notice that? Was that something that struck you as well, of the reaction from those who are a part of the parade or watching the baby dolls?
Yes, 100%. I had the privilege to walk with the baby dolls in some of the earlier parades in 2019, pre-COVID. And it just struck me how excited people got when they saw them, people in there that they knew and people that they didn't know. And these are people from all different racial backgrounds. They are just amazed when they see the baby dolls. Their outfits are glowing and they're beautiful, and they really bring warmth to the community and to children, and are inspiring.
What about the beadwork? What is that process like? What did you observe as a filmmaker?
Yes, the beadwork. I really saw the beadwork as they're putting energy and meditation into the process of self-creation, right? They are creating a piece that they would then put on themselves, but in some ways it feels like they're praying into the costume, not the costumes, the attire, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in a spiritual sense, and especially if you study West African mask, and masking comes from West Africa, and they make their attire as well. And through reading about that prior, I noticed that they're putting energy into the mask. The mask begins to take on a spirit. It begins to take on a form, an energy, right? And I truly see that connecting to New Orleans and to the baby doll tradition, because all of these women, once they have put their attire together and created their dresses, they put it on and they transform into another individual. You know, they transform into an extension of themselves.
Did you follow them a little bit beyond Mardi Gras Day or Fat Tuesday? I know typically there's the blessing of the streets, but what did you do beyond Carnival Day, Fat Tuesday?
Beyond, so prior to Carnival Day.
Yeah, I mean, because again, they do things, you know, in the community. So or is it just concentrated for Fat Tuesday itself?
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely not. It's not concentrated for Fat Tuesday. It's definitely become a part of the social and pleasure club culture in New Orleans. And these women exchange, you know, recipes, and they give advice to one another. They're really, they really support one another. And it's a community, it's a society, it's a sisterhood, and that's another aspect of the power of these women, because when we come together, like, there's the opportunities and the possibilities are boundless. So it's really inspiring and beautiful to see.
What has been the reaction to You Can't Stop Spirit, particularly outside of New Orleans?
Yes, like you mentioned, like the film is very artistic, a little bit abstract, but I think the message is so powerful and people are drawn to the musicality of the work. And, you know, I really wanted to embed history. I wanted to weave music and history together. I wanted our people to remember the oral traditions. And I think for me, I'm a person who learns through music or through song. And so I wanted to incorporate some of these facts and origins into the film in that way. And I'm so blessed and grateful to say that PBS is actually picking up the film, and it will be presenting on New York Times Opdocs on March 1st, Mardi Gras Day this year.
Oh, that's big. Congratulations as well. You had mentioned that the knowing the baby dolls and spending time with them and putting the story in You Can't Stop Spirit. How is it going to inform your decisions going forward about what projects you take on or how you view documentaries, filmmaking, or storytelling?
100%. I think, yeah, the baby dolls have impacted my storytelling, my perspective, my point of view so much. I mean, I knew it was always within me to want to share stories, but I didn't know what angle or what perspective I would share stories from. I just knew that I was probably very frustrated with how I saw Black women depicted in popular media. And the baby dolls represent Black women that are empowered, Black women who know themselves. They know their truth. They're, you know, they're philosophical, they're spiritual, they have insight on things that many people don't have. It's not just about the history, it's about what's within them and who they are. And so it's impacted me to want to shape women's stories in a way that always end in enlightenment.
Well, thank you. Vashni, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Always a pleasure, Ms. Pierre. Thank you.